Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Power Platform in Higher Ed. As always, whatever you learn here, you can apply many other places. So today I have a confession to make. I have no clue about coding, and I cannot read technical information very well. But what the heck? I can still develop really cool stuff. And I think this is what I'm going to do today. One of the things I have noticed is that out there are not a whole lot of videos that show you how to use custom connectors as part of development. And this is something I've been wanting to learn for a long time. So I decided to just jump in and figure it out. Yes, take advantage of some of the technical websites that are out there to figure out a thing or two. But as you will see, you can do a whole lot of things just with the help of Intellisense. But before we dive into it, let's go to my intro. So, hashtag PPHED. If you like what you see here, please don't forget to subscribe right there. And if you have any ideas, any comments, any way in which the things I do here can be improved, leave me a comment. It's always welcome. So let's take a look at what I'm thinking about doing today. One of the problems that a lot of teams have out there is how to keep a proper repository of images that they can use for publicity and marketing purposes. So my team, like many others, struggles with the same thing. But one of the things we want to be sure about is that we have a system that allows somebody to curate a collection of images and then a whole bunch of other people to take advantage of that curated collection to then apply those images to whatever materials they're creating, right? So one of the other things is that there are thousands of images out there already on the internet, and they're already stored in really great places. So why build your own? What we're going to do is build a way to mine that content out of an existing repository, taking advantage of a custom connector. So the workflow we're going to do is first, we're going to create a content curator, and this is what we're going to do in this episode, a content curator experience. And in the next episode, we're going to have an experience that is centered around the people that consume that curated content creators, etc. Okay? So how are we going to go about that? First of all, like I said, there's tons of sites out there like Pexels and Pixabay and Unsplash that have really great content already available to you. What we don't want is to constantly have to go to that website and collect whatever information we need from the assets. We want to just get all that information in a central work hub. So that's what this focuses on. So like I said, there are tons of websites out there. What we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of this service, Pexels, which offers free content for you to use and consume. And it has a really great and wide selection of themes and content, videos that you can take advantage of. Plus, the content gets constantly updated because people are contributing images to it all the time. The things we're going to do, or things you will need rather, to take advantage of this tutorial is a Pexels account. That should be fairly easy. Once you have an account, you can get an API key. And then when we go to building, we're going to use the Pexels custom connector. And for the next part, episode number 2 of this one, you're going to need a SharePoint list to enrich whatever content you get out of that Pexels connector. Okay, and then, of course, we need the Power Apps environment. One of the things to keep in mind is that, we should all be good citizens when people make their services available to us, especially for free, right? So one of the things we want to do is to make sure we really do not abuse the service and we use it in a very mindful manner. So for one thing, let's make sure we don't abuse the system. And secondly, that whatever content we end up pulling, we provide some attribution to the content creator. It's just right to not claim ownership or authorship of that content when we got it from somebody else. So let's take a quick tour of the Pexels environment. Here's the pexels.com website, and you either join it or you log in. And you can tell them when you joined whatever you want to do with it. I already have an account there, so I'm just going to log in. Once you log into Pexels, this is what you see. In my case, I have contributed some images just to see how the system works. You can search for images here, for example, and these are the kinds of hits you get. You can open an image and you can see the photographer, their logo, and the picture itself. You can either edit it in Canva or you can actually download the different sizes. But it would be quite cumbersome for me to have to come over here and search here and then take note and share this with somebody else. I think it'll be too many steps to do that. So what I did instead was I came down to where my profile image is, and I came here to the Image and Video API. Here's where you get your API key. I am not going to show you because I don't want to obscure it, but trust me, when you click here that's where you can grab your API key, copy it, and put it in a notepad or something because you're going to need it later. But here's also where you access the documentation for the API and all that Pexels has to offer. The other thing I want to show you here on Microsoft Learn is where you also find some of the information about Pexels, sort of like you can get a photo, you can get a video, a list of curated photos, list of popular videos, search for photos, and search for videos. Assuming that you have gone back to the Pexels sites, created an account, and gotten an API key, let's see how we build with it. I'm going to go to my Power Apps build environment, and I'm going to create an app starting from blank. I'm going to call it my encoders, curated images, repo. I'm going to use tablet format because I intend to use this primarily on the web. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to the Pexels site. So I go to the data section, go to Pexels, and it's going to ask me for my API. Okay, so this shows me that I am connected, that this is a preview connector in preview mode, and it's a premium connector. The way I usually do these kinds of things is I start by adding a gallery, and in this case, I'm going to use a blank gallery, blank horizontal gallery, and now I'm going to try to populate it. So here's my Pexels connector. And as we said before, we're going to start by getting a list of curated photos. We know that those exist and they've been put there by the Pexels team. Immediately, we can see that there are a couple of options that we can work with. First, we're going to say how many pages do we want to get of information? To start out with, we just want one page. And secondly, we want to get 10 images per page. So if we highlight this, it shows us that there's 8,000 results and there is a table of photos. So this is what we want to grab from it, right? So let's do the photos. And you can see here now that we have something. ALT is Red House. Another thing, Patagonia, one without it. And it tells us all sorts of information about it. The photographer ID, his or her, their URL, a source, which we will get into later, and even a URL for it, and the width of this photograph. So start taking advantage of that. We're going to start by grabbing a label then, and throwing it in here, and we notice indeed Red House ALT. If we look at the documentation, ALT is a string that is a text description for use as the ALT, accessibility attribute, for a photograph. In this case, we can leverage it for a couple of things. We will just use it as a description itself. So we're going to make sure we give it enough room here, and we align it on top. We probably also want to see a representation of this photo while we're there. So I'm going to grab the image and I'm going to put it here. And then we do our other typical exploration. So this item, what? And in this case, what we want is this item source. And the source is a table that gives us the URLs for the different resolutions and format types of that photo. So I'm going to ask for a medium resolution of that picture. And you see immediately that starts showing us for this list of curated photos from page 1. I'm going to make that fill this. Okay. And I'm going to move this and make that an auto height and just place it there. All right, so we have 2 of these. I usually like to work with my galleries in 2 ways. First, I do want to have a fill, light gray, and then usually turn off the scroll bar and show the navigation experience. So already we have this experience where we're pulling 10 pictures out of the Pexels curated images repository. That's pretty sweet. Let's start by doing one of our best practices and also providing the information about who created this image. So we will slip another label there and kind of do the photographer. This is all looking pretty good. Let's see how we can provide the curator a bigger view and more information about photos here. I'm going to add a container to this area, and I'm going to leave intentionally some space at the top. All right, in this container, I'm going to again add our image. And before I go much further, I'm actually going to rename this. I'm going to call it gallery. Okay, so from here, I'm going to have GLR images, and for whatever I've selected at the gallery, remember the source is what gives us the URL for the image, and for a specific version, I'm going to use here now the large version of that image. And I'm going to fill it here. So as we go through, we can see the different images. Sweet. Let's save this. I also one of the things I want to do is I'm going to be reusing this particular section here. So I'm going to copy that. Okay. And then I'm going to add a label. And again, in this label, I want to show again the description, and I'm going to rename this LBL ALT. Photographer, I'm going to name it LBL Photographer. And lastly, I want to add one more label to have the dimensions of the raw picture. So that information, I'm going to have LBL selected dot width. So I have description, photographer, dimensions. Okay. Now, if we look at some of these, this could sometimes be fairly long. I know that from experience. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a variable height, auto height, and then I want this to move with it as this grows or shrinks. So for the Y property, I'm going to use the LBL alt Y plus its height plus 5. And I'm going to wash, rinse, and repeat for this. All right, so let's try this. You see how this moved up? Just comes down, we'll move up again. See here, just goes all the way down there. And it shrinks again. But that also lets us know that this needs some constraints. So here we're not going to make it an auto height, and we're going to hide whatever doesn't fit. So with the pizza one, you can see how it hides there. All right, this is looking exciting. Let's add some more functionality to this, because all I can do right now is look at the pictures. So first of all, as part of acknowledging the photographer and directing, we can direct the user to the photographer's site and see if, in case they like something that the photographer has done. I'm just going to bring the link into this. Rename photographer link. I'm going to copy and paste. And we're going to add there, we're going to change this to download. Now we're going to add some more functionality here. If we like this picture, we would like to get more pictures from that photographer, we're going to use our unselect here to launch our browser. And we want it to go to our selected images dot photographer's URL. And then on this one, we're going to allow the user to download the original image directly from the URL. So again, we're going to launch our browser. We're going to use the source URL for the original photo. So let's test those two functionalities. So if you look at this, this was Cindy Bardillon, and these are all her photos on Pexels, so you could search more there if you wanted to. And here, you download that original image. Let's try it one more. Let's not do the pizza again. We've been doing too much with that. Let's look at autumn is here. So this is Pascal's collection of photos, his contributions to Pexels. And this is where we download that original image. Again, in a matter of a couple of minutes, we have added some great functionality to this. Just like we did with these labels, we're gonna, take a little bit of time to align those dynamically. So again, we're gonna do here, and for Y, we're gonna do LBL dimensions dot Y plus LBL dimensions dot height plus 5. Okay, and similarly, I'm going to copy and paste this for this guy and its Y properties. So if we go to our pizza picture, you see how everything moves down, but remains nicely organized for this. So when a user comes here, they have the opportunity to look at the first page of the curated photos for the day. How could we actually make this experience a little bit nicer so that you see a random collection of curated photos on the gallery? To do that, we need to generate a random number. And what we're going to do, if we look at this, is we are going to generate a random number so that the page number is randomly generated every time we log into the system. I'm going to create that number, or I'm going to generate that number when the page gets loaded, like I said before. To simulate the page loading process, I'm going to add a second screen so that we can navigate away and then load it back. Okay, so we're going to take advantage of this and its unvisible property. So I'm going to first set a variable. The lowest page number I want is 1. And arbitrarily, I'm going to go for 99 potential random numbers. So I'm going to set the highest to 99. And then I'm going to set a variable called round between, which is going to be a rounded up number of a random number generated between the random lowest and the random highest. Let's add a label, and we're going to make this show whatever rand between is holding. Rand between has not been generated because we have not made this page visible after we declare those variables. So to generate that number, we're going to go to screen 1, screen 2. Then we'll come back to screen 1. We see that that variable rand between is 39. Now it's 96. So we're generating a random number every time we load this. So let's replace the page, the hard-coded page 1 here with rand between. So now you see we're looking at a totally different set of images. Totally different group of images. Let's switch screen and come back to this one. Totally different group of images. This is actually page 14. Awesome experience. However, this is just a curated list of images. We have not provided our users the ability to search. So let's build search capacity into this. We're going to repurpose this label a little bit later, so I'm just going to move it to the side here. To search, we obviously need a search box. So we're going to put a search box right here, rename it TXTI search box. Just put a clear button in, be nice to our users, and clean that up. All right, so we have an empty search box. Whoop-de-doo. How are we going to fill this space? So the way we are going to search here, I'm going to copy this and put it in Notepad because I'm going to need it later. What we want to do is, again, look at our connector, and Intellisense is already going to help us here because what we want to do is search photos, right? So there we are. Our search photos are going to be coming from our search box dot text. And again, just like we did before, we're going to do for now one page, 10 photos per page. So we have our connector, we're searching photos, we're looking at things that match whatever's in the search box, and we want just one page with 10 items, which are photos. All right, so you're seeing that we're getting some problems here, and part of it is that it's either seeing a blank search or a single letter starts triggering the search here, and we certainly don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is do an if statement, and we're going to say that if the length of our text is bigger than 1, go ahead and search. Otherwise, don't do that. So you will see here, now it searches, now it doesn't. And it starts returning different items based on what we are typing here. Ooh, nice nails. I need to take a look at that. So this is great, but when the user first comes in, we don't want to show this empty screen. So the experience I would like to create here is actually one that if they are not searching, let's show them a random collection of images from a curated section, but also let's not always show them the same. We have the first part of that experience already there. So we're going to go back and do this. We're going to use the shuffle function. So we got something really cool going on here in this gallery. We're showing very different content in it. One of the things we're saying is if the content of the search box is more than 1 character, go ahead and return the search result. But if it isn't, show us a random page of the curated photos. But on top of that, shuffle that content. So we're creating a really unique experience every time we load the page. So let's examine that for a moment. So this is our page with no result. We're going to move to another screen. Come back here. Come back to this screen. We have something really different. Let's search here for Guatemala. And now we have that. We close this. Now we come back to this shuffled number of photos. We do an AI search, come back. We have that shuffled result. of photos, still of the same page, but we are shuffling them around. So we're creating two randomizing experience, plus we're populating our gallery based on a condition associated with the search box. Now, here's the thing. What happens if I search, let's say, Guatemala? So here's the thing. What happens if I search Guatemala, right? I get these 10 pictures, but I don't find here what I need. I'm only looking at 10 pictures or one page. How do I provide the user with the opportunity to look at potentially more pictures? In other words, how do I enable them to navigate to different pages in this experience? So number one of the things we can see here, we're going to repurpose this little number there, is we're going to use our conditional again, because we're going to use this conditional here, or something similar to that conditional, without the shuffle. So we're going to grab this. And we're going to paste it there. Okay, and what we're going to do with this is there's another information piece that we can get, and that is total result. I'm going to do away with the shuffle piece here. Total result. So you see, what this means is when we search how many actual results are at the pixel site, there's 72 results, but we're only showing them 10 over here. All right, my hits label. Okay, and what I want to do is create an interface here that lets us navigate to different pages. For that, I'm going to take advantage of the modern controls, so I'm going to turn them on, and I'm going to put our tabs list here. TL pages. And what are the items in this list? What I want to do is basically have a sequence, and that sequence should be based on our label hits.text. So you notice that this label, if we highlight it, will have 72 items, which would represent potentially 72 pages, but we don't want 72 pages, right? What we want is since we have 10 pictures per page, divided by 10. Problem is, if we do that, you will notice that we get 7 pages at, in this case, 7 pages and 10 pictures per page. We're only going to see 70. We're missing 2. So what we need to do is round up our hits divided by 10 and 0. So in this case, this will give us 8 pages, with 7 pages having 10 photos and the last page having 8. How do we apply this? First of all, let's move it up here. And what we're going to do is to say that we want to see the page, and our tab list pages dot selected dot value to determine that page. So let's take a look here. We have page 1, page 2, can go all the way 3, and if we go to page 8, we should only see 2. There we are. So we have, like that, just created a navigation environment. Problem is, there's over 8,000 curated images, and I really don't want to see this for those. So I'm going to only show this when we're searching. And when we're searching is when we have more than one item here, correct? So we're going to say, again, if so I only want to see this pagination interface whenever I have a custom search in there, like this. Whole bunch of houses. But again, with AI, only 100. So this is where we're going to end this particular episode. We have a way to connect to the Pixels repository. We have a way to pull images into our experience, and we have a way to search through those images and navigate through those images. We have a way to download the original resolution, and we have a way to link to the photographer's site. In the next episode, what I'm going to build is a way to enrich this data set where the curator can add descriptions to the images that they select. They can select images, obviously approve images for use by the rest of the team, and then actually create a full interface that not only allows the user to download that original image, but to actually link to the different form factors and sizes of that image and use an HTTPS call to the Pexel site to then incorporate those images into different sets of assets that they're building. I hope you like this video. If you do, or if you have any kind of observations, things that you may have figured out that could be done better, all of that is welcome. Please subscribe, please like, please turn on your notifications so you get up-to-date information about my content. Until the next one.